Okay, so we will get started there then. So thank you everybody for joining. My name is Joe Lawson. I'm one of the senior account managers here at 3D Repo, and I'm here with Bogdan Davidoff, who's our customer success manager. So today we're going to be doing a really general overview of the 3D Repo platform and the 3D Repo IO system with a short demonstration after a more broad platform-based presentation here. Please do ask any questions you've got. We've got them here in a chat system, so do feel free to ask any questions you might have, and we'll answer them at various points through the webinar. So, just to start off with a bit on our founding principles, why we do what we do, and why it's important to us. So, firstly, we think that BIM software is generally too complex and quite hard for most users to pick up. So the idea behind 3D Repo in terms of the platform and the IO system is that it's accessible to everybody who needs to access the data with very little training or prior 3D experience. We also think that BIM can create knowledge silos. So people who use the BIM specific tools and the people who can't really communicate and collaborate very easily. So with 3D Repo, we try and break down that barrier and allow that collaborative space to start to form. We also understand that interoperability can be really hard on projects, especially the big ones, where there are multiple file formats and softwares. So how do you bring all that data and information into one central space? And alongside that, another key theme is that we think that data should be accessible without proprietary lock-in. So with 3D Repo being fairly data agnostic, we can bring a lot of those files in and federate them centrally. Then we can store them in an open format so that you can access and utilize all of that data via our open APIs. And then finally, we understand that every project is different with different needs and requirements. So the 3D Repo platform really allows flexibility and the ability to work in conjunction with specialized tools, and then allow you to create customized experiences for your users and your clients. Okay, so to talk a bit about the 3D Repo platform as a whole, we take in 3D models and their metadata from various file formats into our cloud system. As I mentioned before, we then break these down and optimize them so that we can then store them in that open format within our database. From there, we can provide access to that data through a various number of ways. The first way to access that data is through our flagship product, and really the focus of today, which is 3D Repo IO. Now, 3D Repo IO is a completely web-based platform where you can federate your models and start various analysis tasks, such as clash and change detection, as well as running all of your issue and risk tracking and management workflows, and then even model validation and 4D sequence playback. Alongside 3D Repo IO, we have a product called Planbase. Planbase is a community engagement system which allows you to bring in those same models into a publicly accessible web platform where you can set up walkthroughs of plan works and even set up questionnaires and rating systems to get feedback on those plan works. So this system won't really be covered very much today, so please do put in a request if you'd like a specific conversation regarding Planbase, and we'll be more than happy to get back to you on it. Next on the list, we've got our most recent product, which is 3D Send. Now, as the name suggests, 3D Send allows you to send and receive 3D models via your web browser, with the added benefit of being able to view those files prior to downloading anything. So in essence, 3D Send reduces the need, or potentially completely eradicates the need, for you and your clients to download free viewing tools, or even some authoring tools, depending on your use case. Now, as I mentioned, this is a totally free service, so any of you can go away now to 3dsend.com and utilize the system as you wish. Finally, here we have the ability to link into gaming and visualization tools like Unity and Unreal. So you can create live links into that 3D Repo cloud environment, which allows you to keep those visualizations and games up to date with all the linked revisions for your models, essentially moving the time spent in developing these visualization systems earlier in the process, and being able to keep those up to date without a heavy amount of work later on. Now, underpinning everything I've spoken about thus far is our completely open API. Now, this allows integration with any other software, ranging from our existing integrations and plugins with Revit and Navisworks, all the way to pulling data and 3D models into Power BI or 4D sequences from Synchro, as well as more ad hoc, simpler things like pulling data from an Excel file or Google Sheets. Now, on to data consumption. We've got quite a few ways to get data into the 3D Repo platform. Firstly, we have a number of plugins, namely Revit, Navisworks, and soon to be Civil 3D, as you see here. These allow you to upload data directly from the authoring tool into the platform, as well as access all of your issues and risks, and author new issues and risks within those authoring tools. As you would expect, we can directly upload into the cloud system. So this is straight from the authoring tools file format, or in the IFC or BCF formats, just straight into the 3D Repo IO system. And then potentially most interestingly, we can connect to other data sources like CDEs. So 3D Repo can really become a central location for your project. And with the connection to those various project CDEs that could be active, 3D Repo can really become a single source of truth for the project, all the while keeping within that workflow that's established in your CDE. So you've still got an approvals process, and most importantly, compliance with ISO 19650 and other BIM standards there. Just to touch quickly on our security, obviously data security and integrity is top of the agenda for all projects now. So we do have both ISO 9001 and 27001 certification, as well as being fully G-Cloud approved and Cyber Essentials certified. So every time you put any piece of data into the 3D Repo platform, it's completely encrypted and totally secure in our system. And by extension to that, we have multiple hosting options dependent on your needs as a client. So our standard way of working is with Amazon Web Services. And this is on a set of 2 multi-tenanted services, one in London and one in Montreal. Alongside that, we have the ability to run on any other private cloud location. So if you as a client already have, say, a Microsoft Azure server, we can deploy the 3D Repo system onto that if needed. And then finally, in some rarer cases, and if the need arises, we can run the system completely on-premise on a totally isolated and non-connected server situation. So hopefully that has given you a nice broad overview of the overall platform for 3D Repo. And now just to quickly hand over to Bogdan for a demonstration of the 3D Repo IO platform. And if we just quickly take a look at any questions that might have come in the meantime there, whilst I hand over to Bogdan.
Thanks, Joe. That was a really good presentation. Nice recap.
Cool. Thank you, Bogdan. So it looks like we have had a couple of questions come in. So the first one here is, where can we download plugins? So all the plugins are available on 3drepo.com in the download section, and they're all completely free to use once you become a customer. Another one here that maybe Bogdan you'd like to answer in your demo potentially is there any support for 2D CAD files?
Yes, so that's something that we can cover during the demonstration.
Cool. And if there are any other questions that come in that are relevant whilst we're going through the demonstration, I will ask them as they come up. Actually, there has been another one just come in as I was talking there. Any plans to host 3D Repo inside the EU due to Brexit? So we do have the London server currently, and really it's down to the needs of our clients. So if there was a significant client request for us to run a server in the EU, we can absolutely do that if needed. Okay, so Bogdan, have you got control now?
Yes, I have my screen up. Can you just confirm you can see it?
Fantastic. I can indeed, yeah.
Yeah, okay, amazing. Cool, thanks everyone for tuning in. I understand that many of you might have come from the back of a white paper published maybe 2 weeks ago, I believe it has happened. So a lot of questions were raised and a lot of information was thrown your way from 3D Repo team. Basically what I'll do here, and I'll show you quickly in summary what 3D Repo is, so you understand, and it's not just the PowerPoint you saw, you can actually see it in action. But most importantly, you can see how that fits in some of the write-up that you perhaps read from our white paper. So for those who are not familiar or perhaps are familiar, 3D Repo is a cloud-based solution. So as you can see in here, I can open up my web browser, log into 3drepo.io and start working on our platform. The good thing is I don't need to go on SIT to download and install anything. And right now, where we face issues of not being able to be in the same room, this solves the exact issue of remote working that many of us currently face, but most importantly, project collaboration. So the good thing is I can get access to as many team spaces as you can see in here. And then if we look at demo, I can get also access to as many projects that I might be working on. So one of the key foundations for 3D Repo is to make sure that it is not only used as a communication channel, which you can start first of all if you want to communicate with anyone else. This is, for example, a Kanban board, an interactive one where you can drag and drop, do things, start commenting on things. If there are any issues that need somebody's attention or maybe your attention, you can always open up, see what's going on, maybe add some comments, see if there are any files shared or anything. So, okay, that's great. That's pretty much similar to, you having a chat on WhatsApp or something like that, right? It's instant, it's live, things are changing, that's great. There are loads of issue and communication tools out there. They range in their feature set, but the main issue that a lot of the people face in the industry is the fact that if I identify an issue, right, if I just get an image or some sort of comment, it doesn't quite explain why this happens, right? So this particular issue we're going to look at perhaps makes sense for me when I get a prompt saying, hey, there's an issue, can you move this pipe? But because I didn't design this building, nor do I have any license to open the actual model itself, I'm kind of stuck here, right? So I can communicate as much as I like, but I'm a bit stuck. So this is where 3D Repo has been able to actually capitalize on many projects, is by being able to bring various disciplines together. So in here, as you can see, we have a number of project folders which have various model containers. So those could be, as you can see, different disciplines, and there could be multiple revisions. And I'll show you how we can actually track changes across those revisions. But the great thing is now we're able to not just, create an issue tracking communication channel, we're actually able to throw additional 3D information that everyone spends hours modeling. Somebody created IFC model, somebody created Revit model, somebody created Bentley DGN model. It doesn't mean that it should just remain in their hands. I can actually get hands on it. And this is where I can bring it all together, federate it under one roof, and with a click of a button, being able to spin it up in my web browser. So I had no issue of going and asking my IT department to buy me a £3,000 license for a software that I'll spend 2 weeks learning how to do it just to resolve one issue. And it will probably take me 2 weeks to get to that resolution. In here, within a click of a few buttons, I've been able to identify which issue needs my attention. If I'm, for instance, working on the model And in this particular case, I'm looking at the townhouses, right? And I noticed that there is an actual icon in here, propping in red. I can click on it and it will take me directly there. Oh, by the way, this is the issue I just showed you earlier, right? So it might explain me the context of it, and I'll say, okay, we need to move it away. It's clashing with the parapet wall, you know. But the good thing is, it's not just us exchanging emails. What if I fall sick or somebody leaves the company, right? The communication channel can break that frequently. Everything is registered in here, and any of my colleagues that might not have access to these 3D models still get access through 3D Repo. And then they might go and say, actually, have a look at this. I realized that the issue might not be MEP engineers, it could be structural engineers, because if you zoom in closer, you realize, well, they just provided the pipe wherever the opening was. Perhaps we should notify structural engineer and make sure that they resolve it. But if you do a traditional method where you just use issue tracking or message exchange, it will be another 2 weeks until you get in the same room, and then you identify this then. Wouldn't it be more efficient to, pick it up on day one? And I have done so because I have access not just to my communication channel and anything that's within it. Some people might share some information, some PDF plans or anything, but most importantly, I had the access to the underlying issue itself, right, which is the 3D model people are producing to coordinate on clashes, or in fact use those models to create the construction drawings, right? So this is the main use case for 3D Repo, as you may find. It's the ability to communicate whilst you interact with the models. And as you can see in here, we have a set of features. Most of the features are on the left side panel, and the toolbar is at the bottom. If you want to interact with the model without using any of the features, you can do so, right? So I don't have to be a computer scientist. I'm looking at clip plane. I just want to activate a clip plane, right? Maybe cut through the building, zoom in and see what's happening. If I notice a door and I want to know more information about it, I open up my BIM card. It's not just the fancy geometry I see. It's not a video game you're playing. It's actually the BIM environment that we're all trying to encourage you to get used to. But for some of us, it could be complicated, right? I can just click on this door, and then I'll get all the information that's in there, right? Should I be more interested in it and say, okay, well, how many other types are here? All of the doors in the building, Oh, okay, well, we can pick those up as well. And as it goes on, you can start interact with it and start visualizing the BIM data behind elements in the 3D environment, right? And this is you just clicking a few buttons and not spending 2 weeks learning how to do it. And the good thing is, since we do have 3D information such as geometry and the BIM data, we can actually make use of other features such as smart groups, for instance. We can use it to leverage that information such as metadata behind objects. I can then color code my MEP elements. I can then maybe go and say, okay, well, maybe let's have a look at soil waste pipe and cable trays, just so I can see where elements are, It's a bit confusing sometimes when you look at things. So for instance, if we jump to a specific view, let's say we're coordinating basement MEP run, right? I go there, I see a lot of pipes, but it's just confusing, If you color code it based on the data, it's a lot easier for you to articulate anything over to your colleagues and say, actually, these are cable trays, we have soil waste pipe in orange, we have other water supply pipes in pink, so that's all okay, everything's arranged, right? So it's the ability for you to not get overwhelmed and say, whoa, this is too much, I don't want to do it, If you're a novice BIM user, you can just ask your individual who you're working with to say, hey, can you just share with me the information you want me to look at? They can save the view and say, hey, these are the slab openings and these are the MEP elements I want you to look at, right? Or for instance, somebody might have run smart group check, All of these smart groups are based on rules. So for instance, if I go into one of them, I can show you that I'm checking for category doors, fire rating exists, right? So once I've done those checks, right, identified where these doors are, I might save a specific view and then say, hey, here's the fire rating report, right? Go and have a look at it. You'll notice that pink are the doors that are non-compliant, green are compliant, right? And notice the difference. I'm not just bombarding individual with my 1,000 clash or non-compliance reports in Excel. I actually share the context that I see myself. I'm not using complex tool and asking them to use it as well. I simply share a URL link, I send it over to them. They copy paste it, and they can load the issue, they can load the view, they can load the model at the same time. They don't need to spend 2 hours, getting the whole setup done in the first place. So that's one of the ways how you can interact with the collaboration and actual data behind models. One other important thing, and I'll quickly show you, is the fact that changes are inevitable, right? Changes often happen, and they happen across multiple models. And for instance, we're looking at federation in here. We have interior, we have landscape, we have MEP, we have furniture, we have facade structure. Those could be IFC, Revit, DGN files. Hey, you know what's going to happen next? Your system is going to break because element IDs change, elements move, people change the design as they go on, and sometimes it can become quite overwhelming to keep track of those changes. So for instance, if you look at 3D Diff, this is a fantastic tool to simplify it and make sure that the 90% of the team that is responsible for design changes is actually getting their eyes on those changes. You can select, let's say, MEP model. Right now, we're going to look at 2 revisions, revision 1 versus revision 2. What will happen is we're going to superimpose the 2 revisions in our model viewer, and we'll show you exactly what the geometry is changing. So we're not looking at object element IDs or anything, nor do I have to spend 15 minutes trying to create this clash sets or anything, right? You just saw me, I click 2 buttons, and then instantly I see what happens. I zoom in here, I realize there's a lot of green stuff. I realized that before there were no pipes, now there are new pipes, right? So when you do comparison, you start realizing, okay, so things are changing. You might go and say, well, they just provided these pipes. You know what? Let's add a structural model as well with the latest revision and actually see if they have provided the opening for those changes, right? So this is you leveraging the ability to superimpose additional information and actually not be limited by the information that somebody shared with you. Since it's all in the cloud in one application, if you for any reason go and say, I just realized they added new pipes, I want to quickly bring in structural model to make sure, have they provided the opening, I don't want to see my MEP model only, and then go and say, hey, Mr. Engineer, can you fix it? That's not efficient communication. I might have used the tool that allowed me to raise it quickly, but in fact, I wasted a lot of time. Instead, within 2 seconds, I realized it's fine, everything's under control, and I can actually keep track of what engineer is doing also. So that's one of the tools that is super handy for users, and as you start interacting with models, you can take measurements as well. I might come in here and say, okay, what's my ceiling height, maybe see a minimum distance or something, between, let's say, this column and that column, how far apart are they as well. So as you can see in here, without spending too much time faffing around with like fiddly UIs that are too complicated and overwhelming, you can get down to the real deal and find out the information you need. So that's pretty much the platform itself in a nutshell, right? But here's the good deal about this platform being cloud solution, right? And as you might have found out from the white paper that some of you may read or may not, I would recommend you do, is, this whole push for digital twins and things like that. And that's all great. Sometimes people get confused thinking that, okay, does that mean we have to create BIM models or something? But sometimes it's also about the ability to connect that BIM model to other things. It's the ability to get meter readings from somewhere else into your model so you know how it's behaving, right? Or how somebody's using it. And this is exactly where 3D Repo is super handy, right? It's coming from, let's say, a communication channel, right? So I have my issues and things, and I can use it however I like, right? I might go in here and then go and say, is there any information for, let's say, facility management, right? So this is my facility management team, right? I can go in and then see what elements they want me to look at. So I'm linking with my facilities team. They're sharing some manuals or anything like that. So that's all great, but what if I want this information elsewhere? What if I, for instance, look at some issues and I want to see it in my design authoring tool? That's also a possibility. We have a number of plugins, as Joe pointed out. We can publish information such as the geometry and the data that you spend hours proud of, when you model those things. But equally, you can come in and then look at any issues. I can quickly jump around my model, see what's going on. I don't have MEP model, right? But that doesn't stop me. I can still open up the issue and realize that there is MEP model in 3D Repo, and they've identified that there is a clash, right? If that's the case, you don't have to chase MEP engineer. You can maybe just quickly log into 3D Repo, go to the environment, maybe take some measurements, and then come back to the design authoring tool, make some changes, go and say, okay, it's for approval, make sure that you close it off. The individual is responsible for that now. Seamless, right? So it's nice and easy. But another benefit is the fact that you can connect with maybe reporting tools or other applications, and those are super crucial, right? Speaking of project progress tracking or digital twin applications or whatsoever, right? It's all about reporting on the data that's being thrown around, right? Right now, you see all the data in 3D Repo structured, so it's super easy and very efficient to connect it to other applications. So I might be looking at web application, which could be Power BI, right? So here I am, I built my custom dashboard, it's live, it's showing me how this project is currently, doing. I can have a look at things in here, see how long is each issue taking to resolve, is it still open, who's responsible for it. So this is a real benefit, right? You're not just going down the same corridor and, dedicating all your resource to a new application, and then you can't use that information in any other application. In here, everything that you upload and create in 3D Repo, you can recycle it elsewhere. You can bring it into web applications, even desktop applications, right? So for instance, this is an example of me, let me just bring this up, looking, okay, apologies, BI has been quite slow. So here you go, you could be looking at the same information as it is in 3D Repo, right? But you might be want to look at it differently, right? In some other bespoke application that suits your needs, right? In this case, it's Power BI desktop, right? And here I can go and say, well, let's have a look at all of my model data and maybe visualize it, understand where it is. I have some furnitures, I have some doors as well. I might have some pipes as well, these are, I have C pipes, notice that there are no issues related to it. I have some, door elements, and then suddenly I realize that actually there are some issues that are assigned to those, they appear in here as well. I can quickly see what it is. I can see where they are in the model. So notice I'm leveraging multiple data sources. I'm leveraging the APIs in 3D Repo to then recycle the same information. So I'm not just locked into, the web app that we give you. I can then use it elsewhere however I like, or bring information from somewhere else to 3D Repo. Right, I think I'll conclude it here because I don't want to overload anyone's heads during this lunch break. Because it's probably a lot to digest in here as well from what I'm saying. So maybe shall we just open this up for any discussion or any questions that anyone has? Just to actually answer the question, in terms of the 2D information and 2D drawings and stuff, somebody asked earlier. Currently, you can attach 2D PDFs and drawings to issues. You can't bring in drawings with 3D models, but in our next release, we are going to support 2D lines, and soon you'll be able to start bringing drawings from your design authoring tools like Revit or anything like that, and then you can have them superimposed in a model. So that will be a really cool addition that is very, very soon to be released in 3D Repo.
We've also had another question here asking about different file types, specifically SketchUp files.
Yeah, so currently we don't support SketchUp file, SKP, for uploads. So if you want to upload models to 3D Repo, there are two gateways. One is to use our plugin, maybe for the ones like Navisworks, Revit, Civil 3D, and many more to come. Alternatively, you can upload files directly, and we support such popular file formats as DGM, Revit, IFC, FBX, OBJ, so you can publish them here. Or I know that fact that Navisworks, I think it's able to open SketchUp files. So if you want to, you can publish SketchUp file via a Navis plugin, or export it as FBX or IFC and just publish it through here directly, because we support those files. So there's always a way around.
And then so the other question that we have had is regarding education and student licensing. So there is a free account that you can sign up for on the website, which is 3drepo.com. And that will grant you full access to everything that Bogdan's shown here. The only limitation being storage for your models. So you will be able to utilize and leverage all of the functionality of the system. Another question here that I think you've potentially answered, Bogdan, any plans to integrate drawings into the model? Obviously, yes. As Bogdan's mentioned, we're looking to release that functionality in the next release. And yeah, that seems to be all of the questions we've had. So if there are any further questions, please do post them here as another one. Is it possible to quantify each material using 3D Repo? Bogdan?
Material, that's a lucrative question. I mean, material in the sense to quantify each element in the model, or material that is attributed to it. Any of the data that is in 3D Repo, it's all accessible either through BIM card, like I showed you. You can use smart groups to query, let's say, tell me how many, bricks or how many fire rated walls there are, and it will give you the count and will show you where they are. If you want to quantify it elsewhere, you can use APIs to bring it into Excel, Power BI, or any other application. So in essence, the answer is yes. It really depends on what exactly the data you're looking for.
So I believe that answers the question there. The next question we've got here, do you support predefined space checking? This has been a very common question recently for us, hasn't it, Bogdan?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. Space checking in what shape or form as well. Checking the data behind it, yes, we can. If you're looking for geometric checks to say that, hey, this door is gonna, interfere with this space, that means we need to move it. That's not something that we currently do. It's potentially possible. I can maybe raise it with our product team, and we can get back to you with more answers to that query, and actually the specific use case. That would be good to know. But for now, it's mainly data rather than the geometry.
Absolutely. I think this is probably something that's worth looking into a bit further and checking the exact use case, so that we make sure that we're getting the full answer to that question now. Okay, so there aren't any further questions coming in by the looks, so I think that about wraps it up for us. So just as a quick reminder, there are some case studies. Oh, we have just had a clarification there about the quantification. I'm looking for a complete list of materials of the project to use in the budget.
Yeah, once again, I guess it is a possibility. There is no quantifying tool within 3D Repo as such, but any of the data that is related to the quantification information you're looking for is processed and stored in 3D Repo. So you can always access it through other means like Excel, Power BI, or something if you want to. So yeah, that's the good thing. We don't store files anymore, we store data. So if you upload Revit file to 3D Repo, if you want to see the geometry, you can click on the model container, will open the actual model in the viewer. If you want to see just the data, like I showed you in examples of Power BI, I can see just the data about that model without actually opening the files. So that's the whole idea, is we crunch it down to a database and we store data and geometry separately, so you don't have to wait for 20 minutes to open the file to ask a simple question.
Okay, so hopefully that does clarify the question there and answer it fully, but we will follow that up after this webinar with you directly there. So just to mention, there are some case studies available in the handout section here, as well as further information on any of the features and further case studies on the website, which is 3drepo.com. And at the end of this webinar, once the webinar is closed, there will be a questionnaire pop up. So if you could answer all the questions there for us, it would be very much appreciated. And if you'd like any further information, a one-to-one call with myself or another member of our team, any further demonstrations or even pricing for licenses or a further discussion about that sort of thing, please do indicate on the questionnaire, and we will be in touch to book a time with you. So thank you all again for joining. The full recording for the webinar will be available very soon and be sent out to you all. And I hope you all found the session very interesting and informative. Myself and the team look forward to meeting with some of you in the future. And as I said, any further questions, please do get back in touch with us after the webinar. Okay,
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for attending. Look forward to your further queries.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.